Welcome everyone. Thank you for spending the next 30 minutes with us. If you've just joined, drop a hello in the comments. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Today, on behalf of SAE India Bengaluru section, I want to walk you through something that quietly changes how the best teams work. This is a free preview of our 2-day design thinking bootcamp. The same bootcamp we're running here in Bengaluru on the 10th and 11th of July. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll cover 3 things. First, the method. What design thinking actually is and why it matters more now than ever. Second, the bootcamp experience. What actually happens across those 2 days, hour by hour. And third, a special offer for teams that come together. This session will move fast. If you have questions, drop them in the comments as they come up. I'll get to them in the Q&A at the end. Let me start with a claim that might sting a little. Most teams solve the wrong problem, not because they're not smart, not because they don't work hard, because they jump to solutions before they've properly understood what they're actually solving. And the cost is enormous. Wasted quarters, months of effort shipped to the wrong destination, dead specs, documents nobody reads for solutions nobody needed, and disengaged teams, people who quietly stopped believing their work matters. Every one of us has been on a project like that. You knew halfway through that something was off, but by then it was too late to stop and reframe. So here's what I want you to think about, and I want you to actually type this into the chat. What's a problem your team keeps returning to? One that feels solved but never quite is? Drop it in the comments. I'll come back to some of these later. So what is design thinking? Let's cut through the noise. It's a human-centered way of solving problems. 3 moves, in order. You deeply understand the people you're solving for, you reframe what you think you know, and then, only then, you rapidly generate ideas. Let me also tell you what it isn't. It isn't brainstorming with sticky notes. It isn't a linear checklist. And it isn't something only designers do. If anyone has ever told you design thinking is a designer-only method, they haven't done the work. It came out of IDEO in the 1990s. It grew up at the Stanford D School. And today it's embedded at IBM, SAP, Intuit, in hospitals, in governments, across every industry that ships things people love. This is a mature discipline, not a trend. It has 30 years of practice behind it and a track record you can point to. Design thinking has 5 stages, and I want to walk you through them quickly. Empathize. You understand the people you're solving for. Real interviews, real observation, not assumption. Define. You take what you learned and reframe the problem. This is where most of the magic happens. Ideate. You generate many ideas. Wild ones. Bad ones. Volume creates quality. Prototype and test. You make ideas tangible and learn from real users. Now look at the diagram on screen. Notice something important. This is an infinity loop, not a straight line. It's not a waterfall. Teams move forward, loop back, revisit, re-empathize. You'll realize the problem you defined was still wrong and you'll go back. That's not failure. That's the process working exactly as designed. The bad teams pretend design thinking is linear. The good teams embrace the loops. Let me tell you the story that changed how I think about all of this. There was a designer at GE named Doug Dietz. Doug designed MRI scanners, beautiful, award-winning machines. Real engineering achievement. One day he was in a hospital watching one of his machines in use, and he watched a small girl walk into the scanning room with her parents. She saw the machine and she started crying. Doug asked the technician what was happening, and the technician said, "That's normal. About 80% of pediatric patients need to be sedated before we can scan them. The machine scares them. 80% sedated because of a machine Doug had designed." Doug walked out of that hospital and sat in the parking lot. And he realized something. For 20 years, he'd been trying to answer the question, how do we build a better MRI? But standing in that room, watching a child terrified of his work, he realized that was the wrong question. The right question was, how do we help a frightened child get the scan they need? So Doug went back to work and did something no engineer had thought to do. He turned the scanner room into a pirate ship, another one into a jungle, another into a spaceship. The scanner became part of an adventure, a treasure chest, a jungle vine, a rocket booster. Sedation rates dropped dramatically. Patient satisfaction jumped. Technicians started enjoying pediatric shifts. The machine didn't change. The experience did. That's the shift design thinking unlocks. The move from better product to better experience. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if empathy is that powerful, why do most teams skip it? First reason, it feels slow. There's no demo you can present at the end of week 1. Every executive wants to see progress fast, and empathy work doesn't produce it. Second reason, false familiarity. Teams assume they know the user because they've been the user. You built the product, you've used it, of course you understand it, right? But you're never a fresh version of your user again. The result is what you see on screen. Solutions to imagined problems, not real ones. Here's the fix. Empathy in design thinking is not a feeling. It's a research practice. Open-ended questions instead of closed ones. The 5 whys instead of the first why. Capturing verbatim quotes instead of summarizing. It's a skill, not a gift. Anyone can learn it. And the teams that do, the ones that make it a habit, stop wasting quarters on the wrong problems. This is my favorite slide in the whole session because it's the smallest technique that has the biggest impact. It's called How Might We? 3 words. Look at the example on screen. How might we help a remote new hire feel they belong on day 1? That sentence looks simple, but every word is doing work. How invites possibility, not certainty. Not we already know the answer, but let's find one. Might defers judgment. Many answers are okay. It signals to your team. Bring your wild ideas. We signal shared ownership. Not you go figure this out, but this is ours to solve together. One shot. How might we can redirect an entire quarter of work? I've seen it happen. Here's a live exercise. Take a problem you're wrestling with right now. Try writing it as a how might we. Post yours in the comments. I'll workshop a couple of them live in a minute. The trick to a good how might we is that it names a specific user, a specific moment, and a specific shift. If it's too broad, how might we improve onboarding? It could be answered 1,000 ways. If it's too narrow, how might we send a welcome email on day 1? You've already named the solution. Sharpen the middle. That's where the breakthrough lives. Once you have the right problem, the next trap is how you generate ideas. Most teams collapse 2 very different modes into one. They start brainstorming and immediately start critiquing. Ideas die before they can grow. Design thinking says, separate the modes. Diverge first, many ideas. Wild over safe. Defer judgment. Then, and only then, converge. One concept, critical thinking. Decide and commit. Both modes are equally important. But they need different mindsets, different rules, and they cannot happen at the same time. The techniques we teach at the bootcamp: silent brainstorm, because volume kills the loudest voice and gives space to introverts. Crazy eights, 8 sketches in 8 minutes. Scamper, 7 prompts that force lateral thinking. Then dot voting and the NUF test to converge sharply. None of these are magic on their own. Together they take a room of 40 people from stuck to unstuck in about 2 hours. Traditional design thinking has prototyping as the fourth stage, making something you can put in front of a user. In our bootcamp, we substitute storyboarding. And here's why. Prototypes are powerful but logistically expensive. Materials, tools, time. In 2 days, you'd spend a whole day on the wrong thing. Storyboards do the same job faster. 6 panels, as you see on screen. Before, trigger, discovery, using it, value. After, before shows life before the solution exists. Trigger is the moment the need arises. Discovery is when the user finds the solution. Using it is the experience in action. Value is the moment of payoff. After is life transformed. Focus on experience and emotion, not mechanics. Here's the diagnostic power of a storyboard. If a team can't draw the moment of value, panel 5, the moment that actually matters most to the user, then the concept isn't real yet. It's still an abstraction. That's the discipline. Draw the moment of value. If you can't, keep working. Okay, that's the method. Now let me show you where you'd practice it. 2 immersive days, 40 participants, 8 cross-functional teams of 5. 1 real-world challenge tackled from start to finish. You'll walk in on day 1 and by 6 p.m. on day 2, your team will have pitched a fully developed concept to the room. The ratio matters. 1 hour of foundational theory per day. 7+ hours of hands-on practice. Because the only way to actually learn this is to do it. Under coaching. Real users you'll interview. Real ideation with the techniques I just described. Real storyboards. Real pitches by the end. This isn't a webinar. It isn't a seminar. It's a workshop where you'll be tired at the end of day 2. And you'll be using what you learned in your very next meeting on Monday. Let me walk you through what day 1 actually looks like. Morning. We ground you in the mindset, the empathize stage, and the define stage. Not just theory, every concept comes with a case study like the GEMRI I just told you. Stories stick, slides don't. Late morning, an icebreaker to warm up your interview muscles, and then real empathy interviews with real users who come in specifically for you to talk to. Lunch is unstructured, but it's not idle. Facilitators float between tables, listening for what's surfacing, coaching teams that got stuck. Afternoon is where the work gets deeper. You continue interviews. You cluster observations. You build empathy maps. You identify insights. Then you start crafting how might we statements. This is where I've watched teams have real moments of realization. Oh, we've been solving the wrong problem for the last 6 months at work too. That's what a good day 1 produces. At 5:30, each of the 8 teams presents their sharpest problem statement to the room. You'll be surprised at how differently teams frame the same challenge. And you know what's beautiful? People often arrive on day 2 with a slightly reframed HMW because they slept on it. That's not a bug. That's the process working. Day 2 is where the pace picks up. Morning theory, ideation, diverge and converge, scamper, the worst possible idea technique, where you deliberately generate terrible ideas to loosen up the room. Dot voting, nerf test, then 105 minutes of ideation, silent brainstorm, No talking, everyone writing. Crazy eights! 8 sketches in 8 minutes. A scamper round on your top ideas. Rigorous concept scoring and selection. By lunch on day 2, every team has landed on one concept they'll take forward. Afternoon. Storyboarding theory, then 90 minutes of storyboard build. This is the messiest and most fun part of the 2 days. Markers everywhere, laughter, panels crossed out and redrawn. Then a gallery walk. Every team storyboard on the wall. Structured peer feedback. I like, I wish, what if. It's specific enough to be useful, kind enough to build on. And we close with 2.5-minute final pitches from all 8 teams. By the end of day 2, 40 people have built something and shared it. That's a real thing that happened. That's not a certificate. That's an experience. So what do you leave with? First, a practical toolkit. You apply it to any problem on your desk on Monday morning. Not theoretical, not aspirational. Practical. Second, sharper questions. Once you've practiced open-ended interviews and the 5 whys, you can't unhear the closed questions people ask in meetings. Your meetings get better because you get better. Third, structured ideation. Confidence generating and selecting ideas under pressure. You'll know how to run brainstorms that get past the obvious answers. Fourth, the workbook, a certificate, and this is actually the Peace Pass participants tell us they use the most. A network of 40 collaborators from across industries. 40 people you can call when you're stuck on a problem at work. 2 days in, a career of returns. Who should be in the room? Product managers wrestling with fuzzy briefs. Strategy and operations leaders redesigning processes. Marketing and HR teams building experiences for real humans. Team leads who want to run better meetings and workshops. The pattern. If your work involves solving problems for other people, this is for you. No design background required. No portfolio needed. Just curiosity, energy, and an open mind. Past cohorts have included engineers, accountants, teachers, doctors, government officials. It works because the method is universal. It's about how you think about problems, not what industry you're in. Don't take my word for it. Here's what past participants have said. It changed how I run every meeting. That's the most common feedback we get. The workbook alone is worth the registration. We've heard this a lot. I've used the how might we framing every week since. The techniques stick because you practice them, not because you were told about them. I recommended it to my whole team within a week. That's the compliment that means the most to us. And universally, the cross-functional cohort creates connections that last well beyond the 2 days. You'll leave with people you can call when you're stuck. Now the offer. And this one I really believe in. The bootcamp is priced at 7,650 rupees plus GST per seat. For groups of 5 or more, you receive a bulk discount on every seat. Here's why this matters, not just for your training budget, but for your outcomes. When one person from a team attends a workshop like this, they come back excited, but they're the only one who knows the language. 6 months later, the enthusiasm has faded and the frameworks are collecting dust. When a team of 5 comes together, something completely different happens. They come back with shared vocabulary, shared frameworks, shared muscle memory. They can run a how might we session at work because everyone in the room has done it before. That's the real return on your investment, not just the discount. The fact that you're bringing back a working practice, not just an individual insight. And if you're joining solo, you're welcome too. We'll match you with a cross-functional team on arrival, and the seat is yours to keep. Some of the best cohorts we've run have been full of solo registrations who found each other. Every cohort is capped at 40 deliberately. That's how we keep coaching close, teams tight, and pitches meaningful. Here's how you register. Go to events.cibes.org/dt. That's the link on screen. I'm also dropping it in the LinkedIn comments right now. Grab it there. Seats fill quickly. If you're serious about attending, do it within the next 48 hours. If you're bringing a team of 5 or more, or if you have any questions about the group registration and bulk discount, DM me directly. I'll walk you through it personally. One click and you're in the next cohort. Okay, Q&A. Let's take your questions from the comments. I'm going to scroll through the chat now. Drop your questions and I'll get to as many as I can in the next couple of minutes. In the meanwhile, here are some FAQs I will try to answer. On the method, how much prior knowledge do I need? None. We start from zero. If you've never heard the phrase design thinking before today, you're exactly the right person for this cohort. On format. Will there be recorded materials I can watch later? The bootcamp itself is in-person and hands-on. Recording it would defeat the purpose. You can't practice interviewing by watching someone else interview. But the workbook, the templates, and every framework we teach are yours to keep and to share back with your team. On team logistics, can my team from the same company sit together at one table? For the group registration, yes, we can seat you together if you want to build shared muscle memory. Or we can deliberately split you across tables so you learn from other functions. Your call. Both approaches work. On industry examples, do you have examples beyond the onboarding challenge you mentioned? Yes, we've run this with healthcare, financial services, education, government, and consumer product teams. The method is industry agnostic. It's how you think about problems, not what industry you're in. One more that comes up often. What if I can't attend both days? Honestly, the 2 days build on each other. Day 2 doesn't work without day 1. If you can only make one, wait for the next cohort. We'll take good care of you then. That's our time. 3 ideas I want you to take with you. 1. Empathy is trainable. It's a research skill, not a personality trait. Anyone can learn it. 2. Reframing changes everything. One sharp how might we redirects an entire quarter. Practice it this week. Once. 3. Doing beats knowing. 2 days of practice outweigh any book on the subject. That's why we built the bootcamp. The registration link is in the comments. events.cibes.org/dt. Teams of 5 or more get the bulk discount. If this was useful, share it with a colleague who needs it. That's how good ideas travel. Thank you for spending 30 minutes with me. Now go solve the right problem